Good morning, everybody. Well, what are you guys up to on this glorious Monday morning? I know this ain't Tuesday. This isn't Wednesday. I'm dropping a special video. I just woke up. I finished up watching the BookerT A&E documentary last night, and I thought, I need to make a video on it. As always, if you like this content, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and that way you always get up-to-date videos that when I drop them, you get that fresh fire. And it's free. I mean, how can you complain about anything that's free? And as always, if you have something to say, put it down in the comments. We'll have a conversation. I usually always reply back, unless it's a bunch of haters. So last night, I watched the A&E documentary. I've been watching all of them. Wasn't a big fan of the Macho Man Randy Savage one. Enjoyed the Roddy Piper one. Loved the Stone Cold Steve Austin one. And I really enjoyed the Booker T one. Booker T, you learn a lot about his past, and he don't open up a lot about his past. When I listen to his podcast, The Hall of Fame, he'll get into it a little bit, but he never really comes out and really, I mean, at least as long as I've been listening, which has only started listening this year. So maybe those of you who've been watching the podcast longer, maybe he's opened up more about his past, more about his, where he came from, to find out, that he was 13 years old and his mother had passed or died from going back to the hospital after she had surgery from falling from the ceiling. It was it was just one of those moments, especially to have that conversation or have that come out on Mother's Day. It made me think about my mother and where I'd be without her in my life. And happy belated Mother Day to all the mothers out there that may be watching this video. But it was a very, just kind of like surreal. And, when he was talking about, they kept the lights on as long as they could. They kept the water on as long as they could. When you think of that song, Rags to Riches, man, I mean, Booker T came from rags to riches. And I never knew he had another son. I thought the kids that he had with Shormel was the only kids he had, and find out that he has another son named Brandon, who went down the path that Booker T went down early in his career with, getting involved in some, I want to say gangs, but he was part of a gang, the Wendy's gang, and going around robbing people and robbing stores. To see that his son, has went down the same path, but hasn't recovered. He still keeps going down the same path, path that Booker T could have kept going down. And Booker T didn't go back down, because Booker T, when he got out of jail and knew his son, he had the son. He did everything he could to get custody of his son. And then to go to wrestling school and, it was a touching video. It was a touching documentary. To see where this man came from, and to see what all he had done and been through. I ain't going to break down the whole documentary, but it's inspirational to those, I think it should be inspirational to those who have not had the best life. Maybe you have been to prison. You made a mistake, and you knew you made a mistake, and you're trying to get your life together right now. It really helps show, the struggle, especially even back then, of trying to, get back up on your feet. And I want to say something to people, just because someone's been to prison doesn't mean they're a bad person. I think that's very important to understand, that just because somebody has done something or went through something doesn't mean that they can't be trusted as an employee. A lot of people go to prison and they go back on the on the streets, or go back to what they was doing, because they do try to live the good life, but the system keeps it almost impossible. And other people keep it almost impossible for them to get back on their feet. They keep them down so eventually they go back to where they was going or what they was doing before. Booker T didn't do that. And to listen to his story, you know, that's inspirational because I myself have a brother that's in prison. And, you know, I'm not going to go into what he did or what had transpired, but to know that, you know, when he gets out, you know, maybe he can watch the Booker T documentary and know how to make it through. But Booker T became this big multi-million-dollar wrestler, this big time wrestler in WCW with his brother as the Harlem Heat. And then he give them. And by the way, I always thought the Harlem Heat was good guys when I was a kid. I didn't know they was bad guys. I didn't know they was heels. I was a kid. I remember that's what made me start watching WCW. Actually, was the Harlem Heat because as kids, you know, I seen the outfits and they're the flames that just put me in mind of Bam Bam Bigelow, and I knew who Bam Bam Bigelow was, and I was like, you know, he's got flames, they got flames, so it kind of drew me into WCW. But to know what he went through in WWE, you know, everyone said the story about him in Austin where he broke Austin's back, and it wasn't his fault. It's just how the cookie crumbled, I guess. So it did get him some backstage heat. And more than he already had from coming over from WCW. But something I really want to get into on this video, and I'm not going to get into it very long, but, you know, anyone who, and Booker T, I commend him because everything he accomplished in his life from being a 5-time WCW champion to winning the TV championship to winning the world title in WWE and all the things that he accomplished in WWE. He understood and he understands, and he never makes it about, you know, he never makes it about race. It's important that, you know, you commend him for knocking down the doors in which he knocked down. And you should recognize the doors in which he knocked down for African Americans in the industry of wrestling. Wrestling is predominantly, and that, especially back in Booker T's day, was predominantly white. You can't ignore that fact. And you shouldn't ignore that fact, quite honestly. And like I said, I'm not going to talk about it all that much because who am I to talk about it? But it is important to mention it. It is important to know that he did knock down doors. He did open up doors for others to walk in his footsteps and to accomplish what they've accomplished. He opened the doors for the Kofi Kingstons. He opened the doors for the Big E's. He opened the doors for New Day and Apollo Crews and all of these wrestlers. Even Shinsuke Nakamura, you might as well say. It opened the door for all nationalities. You know, those who came before Booker T opened the door for him to do what he did. And when they, at WrestleMania this year, a lot of people kind of had a problem, well, I've seen where some people had problems with them acknowledging that Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair was the first African-American female wrestlers to main event WrestleMania. That is an accomplishment. That is something that needs to be celebrated. That is something that needs to be recognized. Just like they recognized it when Ronda Rousey, Charlotte Flair, and Becky Lynch were the first women to main event WrestleMania. They recognized that. Now, it wasn't the focal point, and it shouldn't be the focal point of the match because it shouldn't take away from the match. It shouldn't take your attention away from the match. When Michael Cole said that, you shouldn't be like, okay, well, then I'm out of this match. No, that's not right, and it's not cool. That match was a phenomenal match between Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. And the matches that Booker T had in his career were phenomenal matches because he believed in his character. He didn't do it for one reason or another. He did it to entertain the fans. He did it to be a superstar. He did it, and he did it to main event pay-per-views. He did it to be a champion. If you don't get into the wrestling world and eventually want to become the champion, because I've heard Stone Cold Steve Austin say it, I've heard Booker T say it, I've heard Bully Ray say it, you know, when you get into the industry, at first, you know, you're not, at least back in them days where it was, you know, the territory days, you didn't get in to be a champion. You got in because you love the sport, but eventually you want to become that champion. So I just want to say, you know, that's the Booker T documentary, man. It opened my eyes to a lot of things that I didn't know about Booker T. It was an eye opener in many ways. And to see where he's at now, and you know, to see what he's doing with the reality of wrestling, you know, it's just all phenomenal stuff. And as always, if you like this video, hit the like button, hit that subscribe button. I'll be back live again on Tuesday. But yeah, the documentary is really good. And I felt very strongly that, you know, out of all the documentaries I've watched, that this one is the one I needed to talk about, because it was an eye-opener. And it was important for what he's went through, you know, to show people that, you know, just because you went to prison, or just because, or the color of your skin, it's not the end. You know, you can still make a better life for yourself and a better life for your kids. And I think that's one of the most important things I took away from that documentary last night. That no matter what you've been through, you can always pick yourself back up and become something that nobody believed that you could be. So if you made it to the end of the video, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button if you like the content. Leave comments down below. And I hope you guys have a great and fantastic Monday.